Welcome to Tailor Made Chaos. On this podcast, we'll bring you some of the highest flyers and most interesting people in and around the fitness industry. We'll talk and laugh with CEOs, franchisee groups, exercise specialists, and to those who work in sales and marketing, and will share their insights and knowledge of all things related to the business of fitness. Love what you hear? Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up to date. On with today's show, proudly brought to you in conjunction with Fit Into Shape, a small but dedicated team of fitness industry professionals, delivering on all of your fitness equipment and gym design needs.
I think just tragic sums it up. I think just
3, 2, 1.
JT.
Hello, GT.
It's almost a dream come true. I feel quite intimidated. I'm sitting here with the man who has the most successful podcast in the fitness industry. A little old tailor-made chaos here, just trying to emulate some of that. For those who live under a rock, JT, please give us a bit of education. Who is JT or Justin Tamsett?
Well, hello, everybody. Who am I? Well, some would say I am a fitness industry lifer or a fitness industry loser. I've been in the industry since 1987. Actually, 1988, I did my fitness leaders instructor course and have not left the industry since.
A tragic would be a better word than lifer or loser. I think just tragic sums it up.
Well, I think when you've been in it as long as I have, you try to leave the industry and do something else, but it sucks you back. And when you're passionate about what we do, as you know, and you've had to reinvent what you do multiple times as well with equipment, we just reinvent ourselves and we come out bigger, better, stronger.
Well,
did you see what I did there? Bigger, better.
Wonderful. Good to mention our unofficial sponsor of the big budget podcast that we're sitting on. Well, mate, we are sitting here on a beautiful spring day. We decided to take it outdoors. You can see the International Convention Centre in the background. But, mate, it's not about where we are now. I want to go right back to the start. Who was wee little JT? Tell me, where'd you grow up? What did you do? Were you a sports kid? Were you a smart kid? Were you both?
Well, some would say I still am quite wee. I'm only 5'6". So, mate, I started playing sport. We lived behind an oval, so Mum and Dad both worked, so I would go to that oval when I got home from school. I was actually telling my daughter this the other day. I'd come home from school, have 3 or 4 Wheat Bix, put the bowl in the dishwasher and then go out to the oval at 4 o'clock and kick a footy or hit a cricket ball for 2 or 3 hours and then come home when dinner was being served.
And what shape footy was it? Was it a union ball?
It was
or
a
league ball or an AFL ball?
It was definitely not AFL.
No?
It was a union ball. And it was, I think that's one of the interesting things about today's kids. I'm not sure how many of them actually do that. I think I read a stat where something like just north of 80% of 12-year-olds have never climbed a tree these days.
Wow.
I'm not sure I was a tree climber, but I was certainly a person that just went out and just was active. And so that's where I started and I played.
I'm guessing middle class. Would you say middle class if you were playing rugby? Kicking a rugby ball?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. It was just that the oval behind us, they only had rugby, and I'm sure if there was a league team, I would have played league, and probably if it was AFL, I would have played AFL.
So you just fell into it?
So, yeah, really just fell into it. And then when I went to school, I changed schools when I was 10, and then that was a rugby and cricket school. So I just went straight into rugby and cricket while I was at school anyway. And went
Where
all the
were
way
we,
through.
Sydney? Yeah.
Grew up in Sydney. I went to Barker, which is in the north part of Sydney, and my daughter goes there now. So it's she's carrying on the legacy.
Love it.
She has one of her teachers in year 12 this year actually taught me.
Now, that's a lifer.
That is
tragic.
No, Mr. Nixon, you're not a tragic.
Not a loser either, just for the record.
So, he teaches her now, and it was pretty weird going to parent-teacher night, I must say.
Did he remember you?
Yeah. He was also my rugby coach.
I don't know whether that's for better or worse that he remembers you. For poor Zoe.
I think Zoe might do it a bit tough sometimes, but he's been pretty good to us, so it's been great.
Yeah. So you went through school. Did you go to uni? What did you go after school?
So, actually, after school, I put in to be a phys ed teacher, and I put in for University of Sydney, I think, Australian Catholic University, and I think it was about 3:30 or 4 o'clock one afternoon, and I was at my next door neighbour's house and he was washing his car, and I went, oh shit. Oh, can we swear?
Of course. This is tailor-made chaos. You can say whatever you want.
I kind of went, oh shit. And he said, what? I said, I think I slept through this morning my interview to get into Australian Catholic University. So strike that one off the list. Sydney Uni, my mark was not going to be strong enough. And then a friend of mine got in an interview at Newcastle Uni. So then I contacted Newcastle Uni and said, hey, for some reason I haven't got, and they went, well, the reason you haven't got an interview is because you didn't put us down. And I said, oh, was there any chance you could get me in? I begged, and I ended up getting into uni in Newcastle to do phys ed.
Okay.
Which was interesting. My first phys ed teachers back in the 80s would pretty much throw you a footy and say, go kick it for 40 minutes out there on the oval. And I thought, what a great job.
Yeah.
What a great job. School holidays, you don't have to mark exam papers, you're in the sun, great gig. And my first lecture was this thing called Professional Preparation for Teaching. I'm like, what is this? And it was on a whole lecture on writing lesson plans. And I'm like, what the hell? What do we need lesson plans for? So I started to wonder, am I in the right course? And then the second lecture for the day was dance.
Dance?
And I have the rhythm of a white man. And yeah, that just didn't go down. So I'm like, I thought I was in a PE degree, but dance is part of the PE curriculum. And so I don't know whether they were trying to scare us off. So 4 years in Newcastle.
Gotcha.
Got my degree. But it was the end of the first year, end of 88, when I had to make a decision, Glenn. Would I fund my habit at university, which like all uni students is drinking? Would I fund that by working in a bar, which probably wasn't going to help that habit?
No.
Or was I going to get a job in a gym, which was kind of similar to what I was doing at uni? And Newcastle Uni was really cool because it's now Genesis Fitness, which is up the top end of town, but it used to be How's That? And it was it was like a marquee gym of Newcastle. The who's who of Newcastle would train there. In fact, the ladies would go in, get changed, they'd come out with more makeup on and less clothing for their workouts. It was the place to be.
No wonder you stayed in the fitness industry. It sounds like a dream gym.
It was, well, for a 19-year-old, it was crazy. But the way it worked was really cool because all of the gym floor staff, not so much the aerobics instructors, but the gym floor staff were all students at uni.
Got it.
And it was almost your rite of passage that as you graduated in fourth year, you had to find somebody in second year who would replace you at the gym.
Yep.
So the gym actually never had to advertise for staff. It was just this constant flow of students. So as someone left, which happened to be Paul Haslam or Paul Wright, as they left, I then came in and started working there.
Got it. Paul Wright, as in physio Paul.
As in physio Paul Wright, and Paul Haslam was an ex Mr. Australia.
There you go.
Both of them had no calves, I might add.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about uni students, though,
What's that?
we get older, but they stay the same age.
Yes.
It's an amazing thing. So I can see why you had a good time at that gym and became a tragic of our industry.
Well, I should tell you that when I got the job, my first job was towel boy. No, actually, it wasn't towel boy. I'll tell a lie. It was sweat boy.
Yes.
So the gym did not make towels compulsory. So my job was to go around in a circuit room and wipe down the equipment after people had been on it. And there was Tony, who was an Italian chef, who had more hair on his back than his head. He was only about 5'2" or 5'3". Great guy, but oh my God, he turned on a fire hydrant off him because there was water everywhere. And so I really just followed him around and wiped the equipment down. And I did that for probably a month before I graduated to be able to write gym programs.
So you started very early in the career, but you worked there during the whole rest of your degree, is that right?
Yeah, I worked there the whole time. and we actually, interestingly, at the beginning of my 4th year, we had this crazy guy. At the time, I thought he was a real dick. Come in and talk to us about sales processes in gyms. And I was like, mate...
I feel like I'm going to know who this person is.
Well, I didn't know who he was, and he's coming in a... This was in the early 90s, so he's coming in a leather bomber jacket, like a bomber jacket with leather sleeves and a pleather top or whatever it was. And he's in there telling us about memberships, because in those days the way we sold memberships was that's how much it is, and the price was written on a blackboard, and if we needed to make more sales, we changed the 4 to a 3.
And it was 12 months.
And it was 12 months paid in full.
No direct debits.
No. And so he's like, somebody rings up, inquires about membership, don't give them the price over the phone, get them to come in and book a tour. And I'm like, mate, you are a tosser. That might work in Sydney. That's not going to work in blue-collar Newcastle.
Now, am I guessing who this person is? Mr. Jensen?
No, it wasn't Steve. It was Jamie Hayes.
Ah, wonderful.
So when I graduated uni, well, first off, I had to decide whether I was going to be a PE teacher or a gym instructor for the rest of my life. My parents, you know where they wanted me to go.
Assuming PE teacher.
Correct. Anyway, I had a kid throw a chair at me in my second last year of prac. At prac, he threw a chair and told me to get fucked. And I went, yeah, this is not the career for me. So I chose to then become a gym instructor.
Okay.
And I applied for a job after I graduated from uni straight away. I applied for 2 jobs. One was as a gym manager at Airlie Beach, and I had an interview on the phone, and then they wanted me to fly up.
What, was that Kieran's gym, or it wasn't her at the time?
This was 1992. I thought Airlie Beach would be a pretty good place to work. I was a bit worried because they did ask me about my how good I could teach step aerobics, which of course was very poorly. But I also applied for a job at a chain of gyms in Sydney called Body Express. And the owner of Body Express, God love him, got my resume, saw that my address was in Newcastle and threw my resume in the bin. And I'm like, so I ended up, they were going through a recruitment agency, and I ended up tracking down who that person was, getting their phone number and ringing them and going, hi Jamie, my name's Justin and I applied for a job to work with you. And we went through the story and he goes, oh, okay, because my mum and dad obviously lived in Sydney, and so I was happy to move back home. That's the same Jamie Hayes that I was like challenging a couple of years prior. So yeah, I moved back to Sydney, and my first day working for Jamie was working at Brighton Le Sands out near the airport here in Sydney, and they had a outreach booth, pop-up outreach booth, and it was in a shopping centre directly opposite a kebab shop, and my job was body fat testing people from 9 o'clock in the morning.
I'm guessing this was a pretty interesting start.
I was like, what have I done? And I was living on the other side of Sydney, and so I guess, you know, for me, everything about what I've done has always been an experience and learning. And when I went for that job interview, the guy that interviewed me, Kim, can't remember his surname, Kim McGregor, and he said to me, he said, you're 21 years of age, you're the average age of most of my members' kids. Why would they listen to you? And I'm like, holy shit, how do I answer that in an interview? And so what I said to him was, I said, I don't know. I said, how about I work for free for a week and you can determine whether they listen to me or not? And so...
Everyone in our industry loves free.
Everybody loves free. So he was like, where do we sign up? It's just in those days, there was no HR policies. So I ended up committing for a week to work for free, and I think I worked 2, maybe 3 days there. And then, interestingly enough, Steve Jensen moved me across to a location which was much closer to home. And then that's where I started there as a gym instructor, and worked as a gym instructor for maybe 6 weeks, and then Steve moved me into sales. I didn't even know there was a sales thing in 1992 in gyms. So that's
this
where I
was
started.
with Body Express still?
Yep. So we had 4 locations, and so I worked there under Steve. He was our manager for a while, and then Jamie moved me to Bondi, and I worked at Bondi for, I think, maybe 2 years.
Yep. Okay. And what happened after that? You decided, for better or worse, it was time to do your own gym.
Well, I set myself a goal that I'd open a gym by the time I was 25, sorry, and I missed it by, I don't know, maybe 3 months. We opened our first gym Christmas Eve 1995, I think it was.
Do you need some sun? You're getting cold?
Fresh.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so Christmas Eve 1995, open the first gym. Christmas Eve, what an odd time to open a gym.
Oh, don't, like, there's so many mistakes in my career that I beg people don't do what I did.
I feel like Christmas Eve may not have been the best day to open.
We might have sold a couple of memberships, but we opened and then we were closed for 2 days, and then we opened again, and then we were closed for a couple of days, and then, January, my goal was to be open for January, and, we were pretty close to the beginning of thinking we were going to be good at the beginning of December, but I don't know if you can ever understand this as an equipment supplier, but our equipment got delayed, so that pushed us back a couple of weeks.
It can happen. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen to us either, so it can happen. Well, on that note.
So, yeah, I mean, it was club opened, and away that was Active Fitness Centre. We're a 1,100 square metre facility, fitness only. I think at the height of our membership, we had just over 3,000 members. We're a big corporate area. We had like 60, 70 staff. And it was hard yakka.
So were you prepared, do you think, to be a gym owner at the time?
Oh,
I mean,
good
it's
Lord,
a very different industry now. But
no, not at all. It was an ego thing to have a gym and have your own gym and then have multiple gyms. And so I always thought this was going to be the first of a mini chain that I was going to start. And I was completely out of my depth. If I think about it, I was, 25, 26, let's say that first 18 months. And I have to say, in that first 18 months, I pretty much replicated to a T some of the best operators in the world. So I hadn't done my own thing. I was just picking the best of the best and putting that into the gym. 25, 26, telling people either of the same age or older what to do at work. So I had high emotional intelligence when I was dealing with members, but I had zero emotional intelligence when dealing with staff. And I was a high D personality back then. So
Which doesn't work well for all personality traits, especially your high I styles don't like to be told quickly what to do.
No, absolutely. And, and it was challenging. And my dad worked in the business, and my dad loved to talk to members. I remember coming in one day to the gym, and we used to drill our team on, we want 5-star service. Our mission statement was to create magical active experiences for our members when they came in. And so we really want to create this experience. Anyway, I'm walking in and there's a line of frickin' people out the door. And I'm like, how are we creating magical active experience when all these people lined up? Well, my dad was on the front desk and he was just talking to the one member and he didn't even see the line of people. This member was having this magical active experience with my dad, but he was not, his blinkers were on, and it was, so yeah, I ended up having to fire my dad. That was pretty tough. Didn't really fire him, but just moved seats on the bus for him.
So you've always been a pretty big advocate of getting out, getting education, getting amongst the trade shows. Even back then, were you attending any of the international trade shows or local shows? What was sort of around back then?
Yeah, so...
This is early to mid-90s, right?
Yeah, so certainly Filex was on, version 1.
We're at version 26 in the background at the moment.
Yep. So I went to Filex. There used to be I think for me, I was actually torn, Glenn, between the business side and the technical side. So as I was moving out of uni and I started to go down that business route, I didn't really understand the business side, to be frank.
Yeah.
So I was very technical based. I went to a Australian, I don't even know what the acronym, ACSM or something like that. on strength training. I thought I wanted to be a strength coach. I was an accredited aerobics judge because I thought that's what I had to do as well. But then, in the 90s, I think in 95 was my first trip to Ursa.
Yep.
And then have been to Ursa every year bar one since 95. Oh, and not including the year 2000. So, certainly education was always a key thing for me.
Yeah.
I tell you what's funny though, back then they used to have sessions on how to get 40 plus people into your gym. And now I'm 55, I'm looking back going, that was such a crock of shit. Just market to us the same way.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to think. So I went through these different generations where speakers would go to conferences and go, this is how you get 40-year-olds in the gym. Then 10 years later, this is how you get 50-year-olds in the gym. 10 years later, this is how you get seniors in the gym. So now I'm hearing this is how we do silver sneakers and get these people into the gyms, which at 55 I kind of classify as that now. And I'm like, no, that's just not what I would do. So definitely education's been a key part. And I think it is important for everybody to, whether it's listening to a podcast or going to an event or just networking with people is really key.
Yeah. So fast forwarding through a little bit, you got to multi-site operation. There was a transition point for you where you decided selling out of the gyms was what you wanted to do. Was that a forced thing because of finances? Was it was opportune? What sort of struck that sort of chord for you?
Well, again, I like to look back and say I was globally one of the best single gym operators. Globally, I was one of the worst 2 gym operators. So we ended up being the first gym in Australia to sell their business to Fitness First.
Okay.
Because they were coming in. And we had our second club and it was much smaller. And so we were running that and we kind of hit capacity. And look, to be honest, I just got the shits with members coming in and complaining about parking.
Yep.
That was number one. And number 2 was I really couldn't find great people to work for me. I could find good people and I could train them up, and that was exhausting. And so I was kind of like, do I want to go again? We'd hit our capacity of earning. But I also, at that point, had a health issue, a chronic illness. And so I had to make a decision really what I was going to do. And when we closed the first club, we had some issues with the landlord and that created a lot of stress. So I just decided, my wife was pregnant. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to sell the gyms. And I think it's interesting when these days, when so many gyms do get bought and sold, and people talk about multiples. When I sold my gym, I looked back on it and went, for the last 15 years, I've had the most amazing life.
Yeah.
And it gave me a lifestyle and I was able to do things. So I'm not going to be greedy about a multiple. I just want to get my money back.
Yep.
So we sold the gym pretty much for what we put into it and I walked away.
Yep.
Which I felt content with. It's not necessarily the right thing, but I think my lifestyle had been wonderful thanks to the business. So therefore I didn't want to have to try to milk the business for more than possibly what it was worth.
So you identified you had a wife in there. Did you make the tragic gym operator's decision and meet Robin in the gym, or how did that come about?
No, Robin, she was a member and
wonderful.
She asked for free membership. I said, well, there's only one way you get that. And so
marriage.
That was it. So we dated, and she's a physio, so she opened a physio practice in the gym as well. And then she did. This was before Pilates was fashionable. She did a Pilates course, and so she was running Pilates classes inside a physio practice. And then, when we sold, she then went off and got, after Zoe was born, she went off and got another job, and which was probably very healthy for our marriage, that we weren't under the same roofs all the time.
Yeah. So you've kind of had this life-changing decision, and what was the health issue?
So I still suffer from a thing called ulcerative colitis.
Yeah.
And I was flying home one year from Ursa, and I was like, okay, do I have the energy to go again? And I think everybody watching would understand and appreciate just how much energy it takes to requires to run a business, whatever business, whether it's an equipment business, whether it's a marketing business, or whether it's a gym. It requires energy, and I was trying to work out whether I actually had that energy to reinvest based on being so crook. And I just made the decision that that's not what I wanted to do. So somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, I made the decision to sell. Mum and Dad were shareholders, and they were like, great. Mum was like, unreal. Can you come and work in my business? And I'm like, well, no, maybe not. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was already on the speaking circuit, so I was speaking a fair bit in other countries. I figured I would just be a speaker. Not sure
what
pays
year
any
are we
money. This is 2000s. So Zoe was born 2008, so this is 07, 08, 09.
Okay.
I started a bit of business consulting and just not really sure what I was doing.
So this was sort of the birth of active management though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So active management started, I think, in 04 because I started speaking overseas and they needed a company to pay and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, that was kind of where I was at then.
Yeah. Out of the gyms, successfully moved on, went into this sort of consulting, public speaking, managing your health issues. So what happened? What progressed? Like, what was the next thing?
So when I had my club, I was a member of a thing called Rex Roundtables.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was great. It was amazing. And it was so supportive for me when I had my business.
And that was just in the US at the time, wasn't it?
No, we had it here in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a group of us in Australia. And anyway, the guy that was running it, Will Phillips, he decided he didn't want to continue flying to Australia. So I then took it over.
Okay. That I didn't know. I didn't know you'd started Rex that early. I knew you were involved with it for a long time.
Yeah. So I started running. Well, when he said gave me like a 2-year runway. So I started running Rex for personal trainers.
Got it.
Because I figured I knew more than most personal trainers for business. And then when he said, you're going to take over the gym owners one, I was like so nervous and scared. But I took it over and that was about 08, 09. And I ran it for for 10 years in Australia.
And I feel sort of that 08, 09 was a real transition period in our industry. That was kind of the birth of jets. Anytime Snap just landed.
Yep.
Was kind of this change from
Mum and Dad gyms to franchises.
Operators to franchise.
In fact, I was of the generation where a 24-hour club with no staff will never work.
Yeah.
That was my generation.
Yeah. And they were worried about insurance and injuries.
Totally. It was crazy times. And the franchises, they weren't worried about it because they worked out what they could do.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, okay, how do we now compete with these franchises? And I've always landed with independent clubs. I mean, I've done a lot of work with franchises as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, with independent clubs. So yeah, I worked for a decade. I worked the world on the speaking circuit, just in our industry, and ran Rex, did some consulting, and
you were on the board of Fitness Australia back then too, yeah?
Yes, I was. Yes.
The first time?
Yeah. Well, I was the president of Fitness New South Wales. I was the vice president of Fitness Australia for a while. Yes, sort of those volunteer roles, definitely.
And that was it. Kind of the industry was a lot more volunteer, but it was a way to lift the profile and the exposure, right?
Yeah, it was great.
Social media didn't really exist.
No, it didn't. And people often say to me, how do you build a brand? And obviously now we have social media.
Yeah.
But for me, building your own brand is giving back to the industry that you love. And if you've got the opportunity to volunteer your time on industry boards, it's the best way to meet people. Yeah. There's no question in my mind, I've met around the world some of the leading operators that I could now call friends after 35 years in the industry. But I met them because I was in volunteer roles.
Yeah. Well, it's that saying about, I think getting amongst those different people, however you manage to do that, whether it's in a voluntary role or whatever, I think it only ends up benefiting you in the end, right?
Yeah, totally agree with that. And if you love your industry, well, why not give back? It's not a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. Active management's born. You're managing your health issues, and you've dropped alcohol, you've started running, you've had some health challenges. But talk to me about that period. What did you kind of progress from there to what's evolved over the last sort of nearly 20 years from there?
Yeah, so I think because my health wasn't great, I was just sort of surviving, almost metaphorically running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Glenn, I was also coaching rugby, and I had aspirations of coaching the Wallabies one day. And, I just thought maybe that's where I would now head. And I progressed in Sydney from different grades, coaching all the way up to coaching first grade or co-coaching first grade. And so I thought that's where I was going to head. But then looking at what was happening both at NRL level and at rugby level and even AFL, the pressure and the churn on coaches, I was kind of like, maybe that's not what I really want to do anyway. And as a coach, I had players coming to me saying, I need your help because I've got a selector coming this weekend to give me a offer on a contract to go pro, and I need your help. And I'm like, well, I actually have a job. I can't sit down and watch a video. So I then had to make this decision over that decade. What am I going to do? And I actually decided I would give up rugby coaching. And I got on a rugby board for a club, so I was a director of a club, and just went back to being a consultant in the industry.
Okay.
But that also enabled me to get my health better. Zoe was born in 2008, so until she went to school in 2005, it meant that I was with her and being able to be with her as she was growing up in those formative years, which was really important. And then I was kind of lost about 18, 19. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And then in the end of 19, I was talking to... So Rex Roundtables changed ownership in the US.
Yeah.
The new owner took over in mid-2019, I think. And so I was talking to him just randomly, and one day he said something about, I'm going to ask so-and-so to be a chair over here for a roundtable. And I went, well, why don't you ask me? He goes, well, you live in Australia. You wouldn't come over here. I said, do you pay in American dollars? And he goes, yeah, why? And I said, at the moment, the US dollar was killing us in Australia. I was like, yes! Every dollar I earn over there is $2 here.
Yeah.
And I actually went to Robin and I said, look, this is an opportunity for me. What do you think? And she said, you know what she said? Do I pay in US dollars?
Yeah.
I said, yes. She goes, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So in January or 2020, basically signed an agreement to start running roundtables in the US as well as here in Australia.
Oh, obviously, that was a fairly ominous time. What happened with that agreement?
So that was really interesting because we were planning URSA for March 2020. We shut down, I think, whatever it was, the 10th or 12th of March, which was 3 or 4 days before the URSA convention.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, shit, what's going to happen now? And so Eddie said to me, well, why don't we just take it to virtual? And I went, well, what do you mean? He said, well, there's this thing called Zoom. Okay. And we moved that group and we met every 2 weeks for 2 years on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then we started another group and the rest is kind of history.
Well, I mean, you were so prolific for the industry over that time, and I think, it was obviously a horrendous time for a lot of people in the industry, but you were waving a very big flag and a lot for the industry, and I think some people forget how active you were during that time.
Yeah, I think...
Because mostly voluntary, I assume, during that period.
Oh, it was 100%. It was all voluntary, and, we started the Global Health and Fitness Association, which still exists now, but that was with Greg Oliver and Richard Betty. We started that, and Emmett then came on board, and they lead that. I like to think we started, I think it was the 1st of July or first week of July, we had a social media campaign, which was Exercise as Medicine.
Yep.
And I still see that's kind of, I mean, that mine, someone else already had that.
Yep.
But we made that one day where we just blitzed the entire world with that statement. And I look back on that and get Facebook memories every year on that. And I'm like, oh, that was pretty cool. Yeah. So there were a lot of things that we did. I was very pissed off that in Australia you could get a tattoo or you could have sex in a brothel, but you couldn't go to a gym. That just didn't make any sense to me.
Because gyms were dirty, right?
Gyms were dirty.
Yeah.
So that was frustrating. But on the other side of things, I can't tell you how many phone calls I had with gym owners walking them back off the ledge because they were shut. And it's like, well, how do I pay my rent and how do I pay my equipment, leases, all that sort of stuff. And so it was a fascinating time. And yeah, look, when you love what you do, you really care about that and the amount of effort and energy you put in. So thank you for your kind words. But yeah, any of us would do it again tomorrow if we had to, and touch wood, we don't have to. Very good.
So obviously we fast forward a little bit, come out of COVID, Rex really starts to take off for you. You're back and forth between the US and here. What else are you working on? I think you're doing a bit of netball coaching as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I still, I was actually looking at that today. So I think I started coaching my daughter's netball team in 2016.
Yep.
And have coached ever since. So I moved from rugby coaching to netball coaching. Bit of a netball nuffy now. I probably know more.
A little bit less stress though? No?
Until grand final day,
yeah.
It's definitely less stress. I actually really like it. I really enjoy it. The things that I like about coaching sport is, number one is you've got to put your phone down. So you're training or coaching on the Saturday, you actually decompress from the rest of the world and you're focused on, so you're there and present. So that gets you off digital, which I think is, for me, is really good because I like being away from my phone or email for those hours. So that's good. It's been great for the relationship between me and Zoe. This year, 2025, is the 9th year that I've coached her, and this is the first year I haven't made her cry at training. So that's
she's up. Good work, Dad.
In fact, someone said to me on the weekend, we played in our grand final on the weekend, and I put out to her during the game, and she turned to me and she screamed something back to me, and someone in the grandstand said, "Huh? Not crying now, is she?" So that's been a really nice part of it. Family side of things. We have the Fitness Business podcast that run. So we're up to version 3 of that. We started that in 2015, where we were probably one of the OG business podcasts for our industry.
Well, and I think arguably the biggest podcast in the industry for a lot of years.
Yeah, we probably were. I'd say up until just before COVID we were.
Yep.
And then we paused that in 22, brought it back in 24, and still produce it now. So I think we're up to nearly just under 2 million downloads.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's just sticking to your lane, and our lane has always been business.
Yeah.
And it's not about promotion of product. It's not about exercise. It's about business. So people know what they get when they listen to the show. It doesn't make it easy because you get lots of money as to have people come on the show, and it's
I haven't got there yet, but eventually we're on episode 17 or 18, so I'm in my infancy.
Yeah, I think we're at 544. We might actually be 550 dropping in the next 2 weeks, I think.
Good, only another 500 episodes to go before I'm successful. I like it.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and all credit to you, because the average podcast lasts 12 weeks or 7 episodes. So to get beyond that,
look, we're just pacing ourselves. That's
bloody great.
That's what I'd say. Yeah. Now, JT, obviously a little bit of a loaded question, but I'm one of the Rex Roundtable members. For listeners who don't know what Rex is, we touched on it a little bit, but talk to me about what Rex currently does, who you're serving, and how.
It's a really interesting concept, Rex Roundtables. So we meet 3 times a year. Independent club owners. We do have an Anytime Fitness franchise roundtable, and we have a suppliers roundtable and a PT/studio roundtable here in Australia. In the US, 2 club owners and a supplier roundtable. In fact, at the moment, I'm pitching to run a roundtable for people that supply these green bushes in shopping centres.
Wow.
And condominiums, like completely different out of our industry, but they want a roundtable. So it's interesting. So it's peer-to-peer, and research shows that people learn more through hearing from each other because of the degree of empathy of the people around the table, as you would attest, I'm sure. And it's a conversation, so it's not a conference, it's not a lecture. There is education there, and there might be a 30-minute presentation, if you will, but then there's a conversation after it about the applicability of that. So the most common statement we get when somebody comes to a roundtable who's never been to one is like, that's nothing what I thought it was going to be like, it's so much better. So it shows that we're terrible at marketing because we can't articulate what actually happens. But it is something really, really, really special. When I had on my round table, my whole round table came to my wedding. Like, you build this relationship, and you know, with your round table, I love seeing photos of you guys catching up at events or being somewhere with a fly in Australia earlier this year. Like, that warms my heart that you knew each other by name and by face, but now you actually know you by character and personality.
Yeah. I think, you know, from our experience, and that's sort of nearly 2 years in, I've felt, you know, there's this certain bond that we create within the group, and we all naturally want to help promote one another and help each other, and we work with one another, and there's you get much more out of it than what you give. Yeah. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Because again, it is very hard to articulate it, but you just get so much benefit from out of that peer-to-peer networking. So it's not a plug for Rex, but I'll get every day of the week also.
I think the frustrating thing for me is because we can't articulate it well, we don't market it well. And so this is in the US as well as here in Australia, and we're actually working really hard at the moment with an agency in the US to tell our story better. But there are still hundreds of independent clubs here in Australia that would not know what Rex is or how it could actually help them. Yeah. And often we think the ROI with any business coaching is that I'm adding a zero to my profit. Often that ROI is actually not on the balance sheet. The ROI is that support mechanism that, shit, I'm going to go off the cliff, but I'm calling someone to help me, or this isn't working in my business, what do I do? So it's a very powerful platform for people to come together and support each other.
Yeah, I think you certainly grow a degree of intimacy with those other operators that you just can't get without that group bond and that rawness and honesty. So yeah, certainly, you know, for anybody who listens to our little show, I'm a massive advocate of what is for both the club operators and obviously suppliers. So
thank you.
So JT, we've covered a fair bit. Obviously, we haven't really talked about personal stuff too much. Recently you've had some medicals with Robin. How's she travelling?
Yeah.
Has that affected you? Where's everything at?
No, she's now cancer-free. She was diagnosed with breast cancer a year and a bit ago now. And that's an interesting thing to go through, where you learn a whole bunch of new words. Yeah,
it's good we can laugh about it, but it's not really a laughing thing.
That's
how you take it.
Yeah, it's a whole new vocabulary of words. That's like to go through as a family is always. But the interesting thing that's relevant, I think, for our industry, Glenn, is when we went to the specialist, the average female will put on 10 kilos when they go through chemotherapy. And Robin was like, well, shit, I'm not going to do that. So to her credit, she was walking every day about 10Ks and continuing to do strength training. And she lost weight while she was on chemo, which made her a bit of an anomaly. And the specialist kind of said, well, what are you doing? And I think there's an opportunity for clubs out there and trainers out there to tap in. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but to tap into a group of people and provide them this training that it absolutely... Robin's walking and strength training had not only a huge impact on her weight, but on her mental health as well. And it's pretty easy to, I would think, it's a slippery slope to go down once you're diagnosed with cancer. And it does take a strong individual not to go down there. But I think as trainers, there's a market there. If that's what you want to do, you can, there are that would pay for that help and that support.
Well, again, you know, that hashtag exercise is medicine. I don't think there's anything more obvious or evident than Robin's case on that one. And whilst it may have been a vanity decision, I'm sure physically, mentally, and the endorphins, all of that has probably really benefited her so much.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that she's come through and on the other side of it. So.
Yep, no, definitely. Yeah, everybody's healthy now.
Yeah. Well, mate, at 55 years young, what's next?
Wow, what is next?
I don't know if there needs to be a next, but what's next?
You know, next for us is our three big projects really for next year is we have to monetize the podcast. So we're really working hard on what that looks like and how we can add some income. We still grow roundtables. So here in Australia, you know, I'd still like to get probably another 6 members on that roundtable for independent club owners. And in the US, the problem in the US is the same thing that's happening here in Australia, is that you get clubs that are successful and then someone comes along and buys them. So you lose your member, but your member walks away with a nice EBITDA multiple.
Yeah, they got the benefit and you lose.
Yeah. So, geez.
Thanks.
So we're actually looking at starting in the US. We're looking at starting like a golden group, which are people that have sold their clubs but still want to keep in touch with the industry and what's going on. And they've also got so much money that they can afford to attend those meetings. So yeah, my main, and then number 3 is continue to grow our mystery shopping business here in Australia as well, which we feel certainly helps our industry look after prospects better.
Yeah, cool. Well, JT, obviously I feel very privileged. As I said, we've sat down, we've sort of talked some of your history. I think we've glossed so much, but it's hard. You've got 35 odd years experience in the industry to capture that in one podcast. But it's been a joy just sort of hearing some of that story and good to see that, you know, you've come through a lot of the adversity and continuing to fight on. So,
thank you. Very kind words.
Hey, anything else you want to chat about?
Go buy some equipment from Fit Into Shape.
That's a plug. Thank you. And if anyone listens and wants to, we're here for that as well. But I guess on that note, we've got a trade show to go into. Network,
absolutely.
Press the flesh and go and sell some shit. So, mate.
Thank you. Awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.